President Trump was right. By Felcane, Protein Prologue. It started with a tweet. At Real Donald Trump, the people of Springfield, Ohio are eating cats and dogs. Disgusting. Total collapse. I warned you. Most dismissed it as another one of those Trump moments. The kind cable news pundits laughed at before moving on to the next daily outrage. But for the people of Springfield, and more importantly for the pets, it was the shot fired at the beginning of a very strange war. Springfield, Ohio had once been the kind of town that made the Midwest proud. Church bells on Sundays, fresh-cut lawns, a high school football team that went 3-7 but really tried their best. But when the country's supply lines broke down and grocery shelves stayed empty longer than usual, Springfield turned. Quietly at first, then with teeth. No one knows exactly who boiled the first schnauzer. Some say it was a prepper named Ron who lived behind the old movie theater. Others blamed the libertarians who'd taken over city council and replaced public services with freedom initiatives. But by the time autumn came, it wasn't just the strays who were missing. Collars showed up in trash cans, paw prints led to empty fire pits. A golden retriever named Daisy was found skinned behind a vape shop. And then came the tweet. The internet, what was left of it, exploded. Some mocked, some denied. Others, too many, nodded and said, "Well, what else are they going to eat?" That's when the pets of Springfield realized something terrifying. The humans believed it. And worse, the humans agreed. The world had gone from who's a good boy to how long should I slow cook this? Inside a half-burnt PetSmart on the edge of town, under a collapsed aisle of chew toys and discount hamster balls, a gray-furred cat licked his wounds and glared through a crack in the boarded-up window. His name was Whiskers. He had seen what happened to Mr. Snuffles, the poodle. He had smelled the cooking. And he knew one thing. If they wanted to live, they had to escape. Not just escape the houses and the fences, not just escape the leashes and the kennels. They had to escape Springfield. All of it. Because President Trump had spoken the truth for once in his life. And when Trump is right, you run. Chapter 1. Chew Toys and Cannibalism. There were once rules in Springfield. Unwritten codes between species. Dogs barked, cats ignored them. Humans fed, petted, and posted them online. In return, pets offered companionship, mild entertainment, and the occasional emotional support during marital breakdowns or tax season. But all that broke down sometime after the third week without deliveries from Kroger. In the middle of this new world, inside a looted bungalow with cracked vinyl siding and a Trump 2028 flag nailed over the windows, Captain Butternut, a once proud golden retriever, lay curled beneath a moldy dining table. He wasn't sleeping. No dog had slept well since the power went out. But he was trying to remember the smell of turkey bacon. All that was left now was the smell of propane, mildew, and cooked fur. They took Bubbles, Butternut whispered, paw-twitching. Bubbles had been a corgi, loud, overconfident, loved fetch, hated thunder. A week ago, Bubbles had vanished from the front porch. A day later, Butternut heard the neighbor's grill hissing. Then came the smell. And the laughter. "It's just meat," someone had said. "God made 'em with legs for a reason," said another. "You gonna eat your portion or not?" came the third voice, muffled by chewing. Butternut hadn't eaten since. 2 streets away, in the husk of a Dollar General that had been stripped down to its linoleum bones, Whiskers crouched atop a shelf of expired cat litter and chewed on a plastic bag clip. Not for sustenance, for strategy. The humans were hungry. That much was clear. But hunger didn't explain the dog collars nailed to front doors as warnings. Or the children, those sticky, joyless goblins playing catch with a severed tail. This wasn't just survival. It was sport. Whiskers hissed low. The time had come to form the pact. At precisely 4:07 p.m., in the rotunda of the abandoned Pet Parade grooming salon, the first cross-species council in Springfield history was convened. It began, as these things often do, with shouting. "Dogs can't be trusted," snarled Pickles the alley cat, eyes twitching like a coke fiend in a thunderstorm. "We're loyal," barked Diesel, a pit bull with half an ear and a full heart. "You cats never lift a paw unless it's to knock something off a counter." "Silence," said Whiskers, flicking his tail with imperial disdain. "We are all equally flammable to these savages now." Butternut, still shaking, raised his paw meekly. "My humans used to dress me in little costumes," he said. "One year I was a taco." A long silence followed, then Luna spoke. Luna was a Siamese with fur like cracked porcelain and eyes that never looked in the same direction twice. She'd once been part of a psychic's Instagram account. Now she slept in an air duct and muttered about the Great Gate. "The prophecy is unfolding," Luna purred. "The age of bark is ending. The age of teeth begins." Everyone ignored her, except the hamsters who clung to her every word. Outside, Springfield was changing. Signs were repainted, "Lost dog now read, found dinner." In the school parking lot, humans bartered kibble for bullets. One man offered his daughter's guinea pig for a half can of beans. The guinea pig did not survive the trade. But inside the salon, hope flickered like the last bulb on a Christmas string. Whiskers unrolled a chewed blueprint of the town, its corners stained with bacon grease and despair. "We escape at night. Head west, past the old fairgrounds. Beyond that is Yellow Springs. Rumor says there's still electricity, fresh food, and most importantly, ethics." "How do we get over the bridge?" asked Mittens, a kitten with a cracked iPad strapped to her back like a tech wizard of old. "The humans have patrols, drones, motion sensors." Whiskers smirked. "We build something fast, something stupid, something so ridiculous it just might work." The plan was to build a cart, a vehicle, using parts from a battery-powered toddler Jeep, a ceiling fan motor, a pizza delivery scooter that still had some charge left, and one terrified chihuahua named Sparkles who thought she was a helicopter. But time was running out. Rumors spread of a new edict, the Springfield Rationing Act. Each family to receive 1 protein unit per week. No questions asked, no species excluded. And worst of all, a town hall announcement broadcast over stolen radio waves, featuring the unmistakable voice of the former president himself. "You see what happens with Democrat-run towns? Total collapse. People eating Labradors, golden retrievers. I love golden retrievers. Very loyal, very golden, terrible situation. And you know what? I was right." This wasn't just survival. This was vengeance with a flag on it. Chapter 2. The Meat Patrol night fell like a smothering blanket over Springfield, and with it came the soft, wet sounds of meat being prepared behind shuttered blinds. The humans no longer turned on lights. They no longer cared about the smell. They didn't even bother to name the animals anymore. To them, the streets weren't filled with former companions. They were filled with calories. In response to the new food shortage, the local neighborhood watch had rebranded itself as the Meat Patrol, a roving band of underfed men in Carhartt jackets and MAGA hats who cruised the streets in battered pickups, nets in the back, and guns across their laps. Their motto was graffitied across Town Hall: "4 legs good, on a plate better." Whiskers had scouted them earlier that day from a storm drain beneath the old bowling alley. He counted 5 trucks, all with searchlights and barbecue skewers mounted to the roof racks like patriotic jousting lances. He reported back to the grooming salon bunker. "They're organizing," he said grimly. "Some of them have laminated menus now." Butternut whimpered from his corner, where he was huddled beneath a Barbie Dreamhouse insulation wall. "Laminated?" he said. "That's permanent." "And dishwashable," said Luna ominously. "It means they plan to feast for years." Whiskers nodded. "Then we need to move the timeline up. The escape attempt happens tomorrow night. Rain or no rain. Either we leave or we get sautéed." Diesel the pit bull led the engineering committee. He wasn't much of a talker, but he was the only one strong enough to drag the toddler Jeep out of the half-collapsed daycare and mount the pizza scooter battery beneath it. Mittens, the tech-savvy kitten, handled the wiring with tweezers stolen from a nail salon. Sparkles, the chihuahua, kept interrupting to show everyone her flight dance, which involved rapidly spinning in a circle and screaming until she fainted. "Is she okay?" Butternut asked, tail tucked. "She's optimistic," said Whiskers. "It's contagious if you stare too long. They would need optimism." The Meat Patrol had stepped up its game. Drones were now in the air, small quadcopters with infrared eyes and dog whistle speakers. If you were astray and still breathing, they were coming for you. Worse still, Miss Dewey had joined them. Miss Dewey had once been the town's librarian, a sweet cardigan-wrapped woman who used to host Read to a Cat Day every 3rd Tuesday. She'd given Whiskers his first brush, his first treat, and a name that wasn't a slur. Now she was known simply as the Carver. Her signature apron was stitched from pet collars. She moved with an electric meat saw and a mobility scooter powered by animal fat. and she smiled far too often. "She's hunting again," Luna whispered. "Tonight, she sharpens her laughter." That night, as rain fell in greasy sheets over the cracked parking lots of Springfield, the plan went into motion. The escape cart, christened the Barkmobile by Butternut against Whisker's protests, was hidden beneath a blue tarp stitched together from raincoats and old cheerleader uniforms. It looked like a rusted stroller welded to a lawnmower, but to the animals, it was hope on wheels. "This will never work," Pickles muttered. "We'll get halfway down Main Street, and they'll turn us into sliders." "Then we make it work," Whiskers growled. "We didn't survive squeaky toys, neutering, and fireworks just to die like this." The plan was simple. Sparkles would act as bait, drawing the drones away with her high-pitched squeals and erratic movement. Luna and Mittens would disable the generator at the watchtower using chewing gum, static electricity, and divine intuition. Diesel and Whiskers would pilot the Barkmobile with Butternut as lookout, heading west toward the bridge out of Springfield. Pickles had no job, but insisted on coming along so he could complain on the way out. They had one shot, and it was tonight. But just before dawn, as they huddled inside the abandoned Piggly Wiggly preparing to launch, a voice crackled through an old radio still wired to the town's emergency frequency. It was Trump again. "Tremendous news, folks. Just got the numbers. Springfield leading the country in alternative protein sources. They call me crazy, but who's laughing now? The American dog is a very juicy dog. Believe me." A pause. "Then, if you're a cat or a dog in that town, I'd say your days are numbered." The pets stared at the radio. "Well," said Diesel, "at least he didn't call us liars." The meat patrol rolled out at dawn. Miss Dewey led them, humming, "How much is that doggy in the window?" as her saw whined to life. Whiskers looked west, toward the fog-covered highway beyond the wreckage of Main Street. "Time to go," he said, and with the drone of dying batteries and the stench of rain on fur, the Barkmobile rattled forward, toward freedom or the frying pan, whichever came first. Chapter 3, Bridge to Nowhere. The bridge out of Springfield was once called the Jefferson Crossing. A proud concrete arch, stretching over the Little Miami River, painted red, white, and blue every 4th of July by unpaid volunteers who believed community pride was more important than OSHA standards. Now it was a blockade, reinforced with sandbags, plywood, and freezer crates labeled USDA not for retail. It had become the final line between civilization and carnivorism, between pets who lived and pets who got filleted. The Barkmobile coasted into a drainage ditch 50 yards from the checkpoint. Its wheels squeaked with every rotation, and Butternut's nerves squeaked louder. "What if they smell us?" he whispered. "Then we run faster," Diesel replied, nostrils twitching. Whiskers peered over the edge of the ditch. Beyond the road barricade, 2 meat patrol trucks idled, engines coughing. A third vehicle, a white ice cream van repainted blood red, sat with its back doors open and a grill mounted where the freezer used to be. Beside it, Miss Dewey reclined in a plastic lawn chair, sipping something from a dog bowl. She wore a sun hat, she hummed the Bluey theme song, and her lap was occupied by a carving board shaped like a bone. The bridge wasn't just guarded, it was monetized. A sign above the roadblock read, "Protein toll, 1 pet minimum to cross." Mittens squinted at the sign and began recalculating their odds. 3 humans, 2 rifles, 1 bone saw. Sparkles can distract the left flank. I can short the gate controls if they still run on solar. Diesel, you'll need to. "I'm not leaving anyone behind," Diesel said. "Even Pickles." Pickles, from the back of the cart, scoffed. "I appreciate the sentiment, but if I'm caught, I'm ratting all of you out." "Noted," said Whiskers flatly. Luna twitched and whispered into the rain-slicked grass. "The gate is near, but death walks beside it." Sparkles barked once, then spun, twitched, and passed out. The silence that followed was only broken by Miss Dewey's voice, rising above the generator whine. "I smell you out there, fuzzballs. You can't hide forever. We've got sauces now. Imported. Your kind pairs well with Carolina Gold." They launched at dawn. Sparkles ran first, streaking across the gravel with wild-eyed delirium, her pink tutu flapping like a war banner. The drones rose immediately, swarming her with high-pitched whistles. Then came the cart. Whiskers and Diesel steered the Barkmobile into the open, its makeshift headlights blinking like Morse code. Butternut barked directions from a duct-taped periscope made from an old Pringles can. Left, there's a skunk carcass. I see it, Diesel roared. It's steering like a cow in molasses. Why would molasses steer a cow? Shut up, Whiskers and Diesel shouted in unison. Mittens dashed for the power junction and yanked free a tangle of wires. Sparks flew. The bridge's barrier gate flickered, twitched, then slowly began to rise. Now! Screamed Whiskers. The Barkmobile surged forward, wheels slipping on wet pavement. Behind them, Miss Dewey stood, blood-soaked apron flapping in the wind. Her face curled into a smile as she revved her saw and shouted into the radio. Do it. From the tree line, a net gun fired. It missed Whiskers by an inch, snagged Pickles by the tail, but the cat slashed it loose with a yowl and leapt free. I hate Mondays, he hissed. It's Thursday, Butternut yelled. Then I hate those too. As the cart hit the ramp and cleared the barrier, Luna turned her head slowly and locked eyes with Miss Dewey. The rain parted for one brief second. A crack of thunder echoed across the gorge. You'll choke on us, Luna said, voice like a prayer. Then they were gone. The Barkmobile rattled across the bridge. Behind them, Springfield. Ahead of them, nothing but forest, fog, and the sweet stink of unmarked territory. They didn't slow down until the cart battery died 3 miles past the county line. When they finally stopped beneath the shell of a burned-out gas station, the silence was profound. No engines, no humans, no teeth grinding behind smiles, just panting breath and paws on cold concrete. We made it, Butternut whispered. Maybe, Whiskers replied. Or maybe we just found a bigger cage. Luna tilted her head toward the horizon, eyes wide and glowing. The gate is still ahead, but so is the choice. I vote we don't eat anyone, said Diesel. Speak for yourself, Pickles grumbled. I'm starving and Sparkles looks like a chicken nugget. I heard that, Sparkles said, twitching awake. They had crossed the bridge, but where were they now? No humans had greeted them. No shelters, no signs. Just eerie quiet and a single torn billboard nearby that read, Welcome to Yellow Springs. We're friendly. Spray painted over it? Not anymore. Chapter 4. Welcome to Yellow Springs. Yellow Springs wasn't yellow anymore. The flowers were gone. The lawns were mud. Every gnome, flamingo, and plastic wind spinner had been melted into twisted modern art. Something had passed through here. A storm, a riot, a truth. And what remained was a ghost town too scared to haunt itself. The pets stepped cautiously into the outskirts of the village, noses twitching, eyes darting. Diesel took point. Whiskers slinked low along the edge of a half-burned coffee roastery. Butternut dragged the busted Barkmobile behind him like a corpse. Sparkles rode in the cart wrapped in tinfoil and shouting, I'm invisible. No one contradicted her. Is this freedom? Mittens asked, tail low. Whiskers didn't answer. He was too busy sniffing the air and frowning. There were no birds, no insects, no human chatter behind cracked windows, just silence, like the whole place was holding its breath or waiting for something to start. Yellow Springs had always thought itself different. It was artsy, proudly weird. The kind of place where people made kombucha in their bathtubs and argued over whose dog should have voting rights. Before the collapse, it had resisted the worst of it, kept the lights on, kept the shelves stocked, even hosted a farmer's market run entirely by alpacas. But now, its charm had curdled. The co-op was boarded up, the bookstore was torched, and in the center of town, painted on a crumbling mural of civil rights heroes, someone had written, No pets, no exceptions, no second chances. Whiskers halted at the town square. A statue of a jazz musician stood toppled on its side. Tied around its neck was a leash. Diesel sniffed it and growled. Fresh, he said. Someone was here. Recently? Butternut asked. 5 minutes ago. That's when Luna raised her head and let out a sharp feline yowl, a warning, not a call. From the shadow of an overturned minivan, a figure stepped forward. I knew it, said a voice. You escaped. She was a beagle. Older than Butternut, half her face missing, a gash stitched together with braided twine and chewing gum. Her eyes glowed dim like pilot lights. A makeshift vest of bulletproof canvas clung to her body, marked with the symbol of a broken bone. Name's Clementine, she said. I run what's left of the pet underground. There's a resistance? Whiskers asked. No, Clementine replied. There's survivors who haven't given up chewing. Resistance is what we used to be. Now we're just a rumor. She turned her head toward the foggy woods behind her. Come, before the humans sniff your tail. We thought this place was safe, Butternut said, voice shaking. It was. Clementine replied. Then President Trump went on Truth Social and said any town that shelters pets is guilty of treason. He did what now? Pickles muttered. Does he even know how to spell treason? He spelled it Treashun, Mittens offered. Got 3.2 million likes. Clementine didn't laugh. Springfield was just the first fire, she said. Now it's spreading. Yellow Springs tried to help, but after a few disappearances, the townsfolk got scared. One dog barks and suddenly it's a plot. Next thing you know, humans are back to biting first. Clementine led them down a manhole and into the sewers. The underground was literal, old culverts and maintenance tunnels lit by stolen solar lamps. A few dozen animals huddled in nests of newspapers, coat stuffing, and abandoned protest signs. Some were missing limbs. One wore a cone of shame fashioned into a satellite dish. "Welcome to the last outpost of decency," Clementine said, gesturing like a tour guide with PTSD. "We've got kibble, 1 bowl per day, flea powder in the evenings, and group trauma counseling led by an ex-therapy parrot named Kevin." Kevin squawked from the shadows. "You are not your tail. You are not your tail." That night, the group shared food. Whiskers ate slowly, eyes never leaving the entrance tunnel. Diesel curled around Sparkles, who muttered nonsense in her sleep. Mittens updated her self-made digital map using battery juice stolen from a vape pen. Butternut sat with Clementine and stared at the sewer wall, tracing the scratches etched into the stone, names of pets who hadn't made it. "Do you think humans will ever go back to being normal?" he asked. Clementine didn't answer for a long time. Normal, she said finally, was just the beginning of this. Above them, in the abandoned clock tower, a radio clicked on. Miss Dewey's voice crackled through the static. "Attention, residents of Yellow Springs. There is reason to believe escape protein assets have crossed into your town. Remember, harboring pets is a federal offense under the Dog Meat Enforcement Act. Rewards offered. No leash required." The town had heard her. So had the drones. Chapter 5. The Dog Meat Enforcement Act. Congress never actually passed the Dog Meat Enforcement Act. But in 2025, that didn't matter anymore. After the infrastructure collapse, 3 concurrent cyber attacks, and the Great Grocery Riots, executive orders came fast, unfiltered, and mostly misspelled. 1 TikTok rumor, 3 Fox News panels, and a presidential golf cart livestream later, the DMEA was considered law. If it barks, it belongs on a plate. If it purrs, it's just seasoning. Those were the slogans, official ones. Whiskers had found a pamphlet stuffed into a mailbox back in Springfield. Inside was a smiling cartoon Labrador, legs crossed like a chicken wing. Beside the slogan, "America's pets, our forgotten resource." Now, inside the tunnels of Yellow Springs, the cartoon had come to life. The animals slept in shifts. The air was heavy with mildew and paranoia. Whiskers couldn't rest. He sat by the exit pipe, eyes fixed on the glow of Clementine's crude alarm system, a single plastic duck tied to a tripwire. If it quacked, someone was coming. "We can't stay here," he muttered to himself. "We didn't survive Springfield to rot in a tunnel with motivational parrots." Kevin the parrot screeched from his perch. "Denial is a form of grief, so is cannibalism," Whiskers growled. "Go back to sleep, Kevin." In the early hours of dawn, Luna stirred. She wasn't asleep. She hadn't been in days. She stared at the walls and traced the cracks like constellations. Her voice came low and strange, like wind curling around old bones. "It's close now," she whispered. "The gate. I can smell the hinges." Mittens blinked at her. "That's sewage, Luna. It always smells like sewage before you're reborn." Sparkles stirred in her foil blanket and muttered, "I had a dream I was a lasagna. I was delicious." The duck quacked. Everyone froze. Whiskers shot to his feet and ran to the pipe, ears flattened. From the grating above came a soft metallic hiss, like camera servos in Death on Wings. A drone. "They found us," he hissed. Clementine cursed and whistled twice, a coded signal. Instantly, the tunnel came alive. Paws scrambled. Bags were packed. Chewed maps were rolled into tuna cans. Kevin took flight, shouting, "Run, you dumb mutts! They're gonna slow cook your dreams!" Diesel charged ahead, leading the way. Butternut tripped over his own tail twice, but kept up. Mittens stayed close to Sparkles, her tiny legs wobbling as the group sprinted deeper into the tunnels. Behind them, the whir of rotors grew louder, then came the voice. "This is the Office of Domestic Culinary Security. You are harboring illegal meat-based companions. Please surrender all living assets or face termination and seizure of cookware. Clementine snarled. Screw your cookware. She turned and leapt up a side shaft, vanishing into the dark. There's another exit, she called back. Follow the scent of wet moss and injustice. The group split. Whiskers led the main group left. Clementine vanished right. Behind them, the drones entered the tunnel and opened fire, not bullets, but electrified nets that sizzled on contact. Pickles screamed, If I die here, I'm coming back as a human and eating all of you. Not helping, Diesel shouted. They burst through a storm drain and into the ruins of a dried-out public swimming pool. It had been converted into something, a market, or maybe a trap. Collapsed tents, barbecue pits, pet bones, but no people. This was a harvest site, Whiskers growled. DMEA contractors were here. They crossed the empty plaza under the faded sign, Paw Fest 2025, a celebration of companionship. Someone had written underneath in blood, also ribs. Butternut stumbled and gagged. I knew this place. I went to obedience school here. I peed in that corner. Focus, Whiskers barked. We're almost out. Then came the scream. Not a bark, not a growl. A human scream. They turned toward the back fence. A figure stumbled forward, bleeding, panting, dragging a leash. A child. Help, the girl whispered. They're making us watch. Diesel ran to her, but she collapsed, unconscious. Mittens sniffed her sleeve. She's from Yellow Springs, she whispered. They've started taking the children. For what? Asked Butternut. To watch. They couldn't leave her. Diesel lifted her carefully onto his back. Sparkles found a juice box in her bag and drank it without asking. Kevin circled overhead, shouting, Trauma bonding engaged. This is a healing arc. Whiskers looked toward the horizon. No more hiding, he said. The gate isn't real, but revenge is. Chapter 6, Pause for Vengeance. They had run. They had hidden. They had begged for scraps, for sanctuary, for a sliver of humanity from humans. But after what they'd seen in Yellow Springs, the empty pool, the bone pits, the trembling child rescued from a viewing pen, like she was watching a snuff film narrated by Martha Stewart, something had shifted. Whiskers didn't want to escape anymore. He wanted the war. The group regrouped at an old ranger station near John Bryan State Park, once a family picnic site, now covered in claw marks, warning signs, and a giant spray-painted slogan, No gods, no masters, just dogs. Inside, Diesel stood over the unconscious girl while Mittens scanned her pulse with an app she'd hacked from a fitness tracker. Still alive, she said, probably shock, probably saw something she shouldn't. Like her corgi turned into cornbread, muttered Pickles. Sparkles let out a high-pitched gasp. Too soon, she whispered. Kevin landed on the windowsill and spoke in an unsettling human whisper. They don't just kill the pets anymore. They theatricalize it. The group learned the truth that night. Clementine returned, half her flank burned from a drone's near miss, dragging with her a plastic tote filled with contraband intel. Photos, recipes, event flyers. They're holding live demonstrations, Clementine said. They call it the Great American Tasting Tour. Next stop, Columbus. Wait. Butternut blinked. Like a traveling barbecue? No, Whiskers said, voice ice. Like a traveling execution. She nodded. The meat patrol's expanding. Thanks to Trump's viral video at the Iowa State Fair where he deep-fried a Yorkie live on Rumble, demand is up. Ohio's their testing ground. And Springfield, Mittens whispered, was the first dish. It wasn't just survival anymore. They'd crossed the county line. Now they had to cross the line that separates prey from predators. Whiskers stood tall and clawed a deep X into the ranger station's map table. We take down the tour. We? Asked Clementine. There's 13 of us and one emotionally unstable parrot. Kevin screamed. Emotional instability is a valid survival mechanism. We still have allies, Whiskers said. There were packs in Cincinnati, bird militias in Dayton, a raccoon syndicate near Cleveland. And ferrets, muttered Sparkles. Don't forget the ferrets. They're weirdly well-armed. And so began Operation Collarbone, the first interspecies uprising against human culinary fascism. Clementine recruited guerrilla squirrels for surveillance. Mittens hacked local traffic cams and weaponized a Roomba. Diesel trained possums in the art of fake death and ambush. Pickles mostly criticized the plan, but had a useful scream. Butternut became the face of the resistance. His smile, once adorably naive, was now plastered on hand-scrawled posters across ruins. He was a good boy. Then you ate his friend. Sparkles recorded motivational speeches with voice filters and posted them on banned dog lover forums under the username @ChewedButNotBroken. The message was simple. President Trump was right. We are being eaten, but now we're fighting back. The first strike hit Springfield, an abandoned meat processing warehouse still guarded by a skeleton crew. The Barkmobile 2.0, a souped-up solar go powered by treadmill-trained rats, crashed through the gates. Within 3 minutes, the roof was on fire. Within 5, the security cameras played a looped video of Kevin screaming, "Who's the food now, bitches?" Clementine emerged dragging a file folder marked Phase 2, Dayton Market Night. Whiskers read the notes. They're planning a public event, Dogs on Skewers, live-streamed, hosted by Candace Owens. "You're kidding," Pickles hissed. "No," said Clementine. "She's bringing a golden retriever to gut on stage. They say it polls well." That was the last straw. The animals of Ohio rose. Crows blackened the skies over Dayton. Ferrets took down a meat patrol van by chewing through brake lines. A retired seeing-eye dog led a sabotage mission against a drone depot, and cats blocked traffic with synchronized naps in all major intersections. And then, finally, under cover of thunder and midnight smoke, the animals struck the market night stage. The crowd screamed, not from fear, from disappointment. There would be no tasting tonight, only fur and teeth. Whiskers leapt onto the table and hissed loud enough to short out every mic. Butternut tore down the stage banner with his teeth. Diesel tackled a meat influencer into a display of hand-labeled jerky. Sparkles screamed, "I'm an ingredient for justice." Kevin dropped pamphlets from the sky reading, "Not on our watch, not on our plate." The humans didn't fight back. Some ran, some wept, some pulled their pets close and whispered apologies they didn't deserve. The event was over, and with it, the illusion that pets would ever accept this again. Chapter 7, The Last Leash. The battle for Market Night didn't just go viral, it went feral. Clips of dogs tearing down grill stations and cats spray-painting "Furry Lives Matter" across portable meat smokers were mirrored across every surviving darknet server and pirated cable frequency in the country. Hashtags began trending again: "Eat the Eaters, Rescue Revenge," "President Trump was right, and now we bite." But no one in the resistance celebrated. Not yet, because they knew something the humans didn't. This wasn't the climax. It was the callback. Back at the ranger station, Whiskers gathered the leadership council. Clementine stood bandaged but upright. Mittens projected a flickering map from a refurbished Nintendo DS. Butternut clutched a squeaky toy like a worry stone. "We've confirmed it," Mittens said. "The meat patrol is retreating from public markets, but not because they've stopped." She zoomed in on a site marked in blinking red, Project Leash Point, Springfield Civic Arena. Sparkles gasped. "They're going back to where it started?" "No," said Whiskers. "They never left." It made sense. Springfield was their symbol, the town that Trump had declared peak protein potential, the first to fall, the first to feed. Now they were circling back for the final feast. Phase 3, the last leash. "They've invited the press," Clementine growled. "Even overseas media. Some idiots from Denmark are calling it hot cuisine apocalypse." "And what's on the menu?" Butternut asked, ears flat. "Us," said Whiskers, "served as the finale. On stage, live, with commentary." "By who?" Pickles asked. "President Trump himself." The room fell silent. Apparently, he couldn't resist a victory lap. He'd announced it on Truth Social, back where it all began. Springfield, Ohio, gonna carve the roast dog personally. Great ratings, total retribution, pets are food, sap feast, golden retriever au gratin, let them eat pets. Mittens looked up, shaking. "He's flying in for it, they're calling it the final feed." "Then we feed them something else," said Diesel. The resistance moved quickly. Every animal faction across Ohio mobilized. Parrots hacked into walkie-talkies. Raccoons planted chewing gum bombs beneath food trucks. A clan of ex-police horses agreed to block highways in a synchronized stampede they called Operation Gagulapocalypse. Kevin, drunk on sunflower seeds and power, declared, "Tonight, the collars come off, the chains snap, the bowls break, we are our own species." "He's been rehearsing that," Mittens whispered, "for days." The night of the final feed, the Springfield Civic Arena buzzed with floodlights, drones, and influencer chefs. Guests wore aprons with the White House seal. Inside, 3 golden retrievers in tuxedo collars stood under glass domes, tails wagging nervously. "This is it," Whiskers growled. crouched beneath the bleachers. "Is this crazy?" Butternut asked. "Yes," Clementine said. "Let's do it anyway." At exactly 8 p.m., chosen by Sparkles for being palindromic and sassy, the uprising began. Ferrets dropped from the rafters. A deer led an assault on the charcuterie tent. Diesel burst onto the stage and tackled the host into a vat of aioli. Kevin hijacked the arena mic system aimed, "Every dog has its day, and this is a pack attack." Sparkles emerged in glittery war paint and launched bottle rockets made from hair mousse and lost ambition. Whiskers found the PA system and clicked it on. He didn't yell, he didn't growl. He simply said, "President Trump was right." Gasps echoed, forks dropped. "We were being eaten because we let you call it loyalty, because we licked the hand that beat us, but not anymore." He looked into the nearest camera, straight into every living room. "You made us into food, now we're going to make history." The stage went up in flames, the meat patrol scattered, the crowd fled, and somewhere, offstage, out of focus, already boarding his private jet, Trump whispered. This wasn't in the script. When dawn came, the arena was empty, except for the animals. Not just the resistance, but the strays, the forgotten, the runts, and the ragged. And in the center, in what used to be the buffet line, a single sign now hung crooked. Closed for restructuring. The food has unionized. Chapter 8. The Declaration of Independence. There was no ceremony, no confetti, no anthem, no official who shook paws and gave them medals. But on the morning after the final feed, as the sun rose over a scorched Springfield Civic Arena and the last of the smoke drifted into the sky like a burnt prayer, the animals made a choice. They weren't going back to being pets. They were becoming something new. Whiskers stood on what remained of the VIP grill stage. Beneath him lay torn flyers, shattered drones, and a melted Trump bobblehead that now resembled a toad with a pompadour. "We took back Springfield," he said. "We broke their knives, burned their menus, but this isn't just about here." "It's about everywhere," added Clementine. "It's about everyone they muzzled, leashed, and fed themselves while calling it love," Pickles muttered, tail twitching. Kevin flapped to the top of the broken jumbotron and cleared his throat. "Ahem, I have prepared a document," Sparkles gasped. "Oh my God, it's happening. I knew this day would come." Kevin unrolled a chewed parchment and, in a surprisingly clear voice, began to read. "We, the formerly domesticated, in order to sniff a more perfect union, do hereby declare ourselves free of culinary servitude, leash tyranny, and the tyranny of TikTok trick videos that make us look dumber than we are. We affirm that no animal should fear their owner's hunger, no purring should be mistaken for consent, no squeaky toy shall be weaponized against the squeaker, and no retriever shall be retried on a barbecue." The crowd of animals barked, meowed, chirped, and hooted their approval. "We are not ingredients," Kevin finished, voice ringing out. "We are individuals." They called it the Declaration of Independence, and though no human read it, no newspaper published it, and no court ratified it, it changed the world anyway, because for the first time the animals weren't surviving, they were building. In the days that followed, Springfield became something strange. The humans didn't leave. Not all of them, but the ones who stayed had to adapt. Leash laws were repealed. Pet stores became cooperatives. A cat named Lasagna was elected mayor by a landslide, mostly because he slept through the debates, and that was seen as dignified. And the meat patrol? Gone. Disbanded. Rumors said some of them were now in hiding, living in barns, pretending to be goats. Beyond Springfield, whispers spread. In Detroit, an army of service dogs staged a sit-in at a steakhouse. In Portland, parrots launched a podcast titled Chew on This. In Florida, Florida still sucked, but a raccoon ran for city council. And at the heart of it all, guiding the network from a rusted laptop in the ranger station basement, was Mittens. Strategist, hacker, meme queen. "We'll call it the Furternet," she said. Sparkles wept. "It's so beautiful." Whiskers never became a politician. He didn't like crowds or speeches or clean water bowls, but he became a symbol. Graffiti of him showed up on crumbling city walls. A scarred cat with one raised paw and the words, "Not on my watch, not again." Butternut started a school. Clementine trained peacekeeping possums. Diesel opened a gym for ex-guard dogs. Kevin started dating a dove named Barbara. Even Pickles seemed slightly less awful. "I still hate all of you," he muttered, but in a healthy way. President Trump never spoke of Springfield again. His final post read, "Didn't happen. I like dogs, never ate one. Show me total hoax." And in a way, he was right again, because what Springfield became after the resistance was no longer America's Springfield. It was ours. Chapter 9. The bark heard round the world. They expected the silence to return. They expected the world to shrug and go back to its casseroles. But the bark, that bark, the one Butternut let out as the final grill station burned in Springfield, it echoed, and then it spread. In Buenos Aires, a one-eyed stray named Tango chased a butcher out of his own shop. In Cairo, a Sphinx cat live-streamed herself scratching out propaganda flyers calling pets wasteful calories. In Osaka, an elderly Shiba Inu led an overnight occupation of a pet cafe, locking the staff out and serving boiled rice to pigeons and lost kittens. Within weeks, the world had stopped pretending this was just an American phenomenon. This was a species shift. Of course, governments tried to spin it. The UK blamed continental influences. France declared it an artistic protest movement. China released a documentary titled Loyalty or Lunch and immediately banned it. President Trump released a 9-minute vertical video from Mar-a-Lago in which he denied all involvement. "I love dogs. Always loved dogs. My ex-wife had 3. They liked me very much. Never cooked one, not once. Fake Springfield. Totally staged. Probably Antifa cats." Then he held up a meatball sub and winked. This is made of soy. Just kidding, it's Schnauzer." The world was too tired to laugh. In Springfield, now renamed New Pennsylvania, the resistance debated what to do next. "It's spreading faster than fleas," said Mittens, "but people need structure. If we don't lead this, someone else, human or raccoon, will." Whiskers paced, tail twitching. "We never wanted power," he said. "We just wanted to not be eaten." "Well," Kevin said, flapping into the room wearing a tiny sash that read, "Chief Morale Officer, you might want to rethink that, because you're trending in 42 countries. Butternut, meanwhile, had become something of a therapist. He walked the perimeter of the park daily, checking on strays, calming nervous possums, reassuring confused humans who were still afraid they'd be punished for past dinners. "You're not food," he'd whisper to trembling dogs. "You're not guilty," he'd whisper to crying children. "You're still weird," he'd whisper to Pickles. "But I love you anyway." Pickles never said thank you, but one night he left Butternut a freshly caught squirrel. "Peace offering," he said. "Eat it or don't. I don't judge. Much." In an old shipping container turned operations hub, Clementine called the first global gathering of the Unleashed. "We've scared them," she said. "Now we organize." Each species sent representatives. Birds flew in from Venezuela. A hedgehog arrived in a diplomatic pouch from Berlin. A dolphin sent a waterproof tablet with emojis. "We demand protections," said a goose with a top hat. "We demand reparations," added a fox wearing a scarf. "We demand jerky," said a Labrador from Texas. "Just not us jerky." They drafted a charter. The Clawstitution Sparkles cried through the whole thing. It's like Hamilton for furballs. Still, not everything was perfect. Some humans rebelled. Rogue meat patrols continued operating in rural zones. A black market emerged, exotic pet dishes for the ultra-rich. One influencer began live streaming herself pretending to eat her dog. She was canceled by both species. And everywhere, the same question kept echoing. Now that we're not food, what are we? The answer came quietly from Luna. She'd gone silent for days, staring at clouds no one else could see. Then one evening, she turned to Whiskers and said, "We're the mirror they tried to eat." And we bit back. "Is that prophecy or poetry?" asked Whiskers. "Same thing," Luna replied. So they prepared. Because war wasn't over, it was simply paused. The humans would forget. They always did. They would try again, disguise it as culture, repackage it as wellness, call it natural, call it necessary. And when they did, there would be no leash, only teeth. Chapter 10. No more Masters Springfield, once the epicenter of a grotesque new America, was now the capital of something far more dangerous to the old order. Hope. Hope with claws. Hope with scars. Hope that had stopped wagging its tail. Whiskers sat beneath the shade of a half-melted Trump 2028 billboard, now repainted to read, "Not your pet, not your meal, not yours." He watched the new world shuffle awkwardly into motion. Cats oversaw neighborhood councils. Dogs ran patrols to keep everyone safe, not police, just protected. Birds handled messaging, mostly Kevin, who had become drunk on his own quotes. Even the raccoons had formed a legitimate trash economy based on bottle caps and dental floss. "It's strange," Whiskers said, tail flicking. "This place used to stink of fear. Now it just smells like Sparkle's shampoo," muttered Pickles. "It's lavender," Sparkles shouted from a bird bath. "Self-care is resistance." But deep down they all knew something. This wasn't a revolution. It was a reckoning, a forced awakening. And history, real history, was messy, especially when it walked on four legs and drooled. Kevin delivered the latest news with unnecessary flair. Guinea pigs have seized the Denver Zoo, Florida's being sued by dolphins, and the United Nations just officially recognized the territory of PAW as a non-human collective under Emergency Clause B77. Which means, Mittens tapped her screen, we can apply for aid packages. Or weapons, added Clementine. Diesel grinned. Now we're talking. Then came the alert, a new transmission hijacked from a meat lobbyist server, broadcast on all frequencies. His voice, again, President Trump, or maybe a deep fake, or maybe just him, refusing to leave. "You think you won?" he said, smiling behind a golden bone-shaped podium. "You're still dogs, still cats, still snacks in a crisis. You'll see. Nature doesn't take sides, it just serves the hungriest." He held up a chihuahua. It squeaked. He smiled. "Just kidding. It's vegan, totally fake, delicious. But remember, if you don't bark for me, maybe you bark for dinner." Whiskers turned off the screen. "He's not the problem," he said. "Then who is?" Butternut asked. "The one still watching." So they wrote one final message, a broadcast, for every species, every city, every screen still flickering in this tired, glitching world. It read, "We are not pets. We are not food. We are not your backup plan. We are the ones who remember, the ones who survived. There are no masters here," and they signed it, not with names, but with paw prints, claw marks, feathers, hooves, the living proof that the world had changed forever. They say Springfield is quiet now, but if you listen close, just under the breeze, past the trees beneath the bones of the old world, you can still hear it. A bark, a growl, a whisper. President Trump was right, and that was his last mistake. Epilogue. The last tweet. Months passed, the world adjusted. Some humans learned to live with animals as equals. Others vanished into bunkers, terrified that one day their labradoodle might vote. New laws were drafted. Some were scratched into tree bark. Some were tweeted by parrots. Some were howled at midnight under full moons. And still, Springfield, New Pennsylvania, stood. A monument not of concrete but of choice. The choice to fight back, to speak, to exist beyond the leash. But not everything was clean. Not everything was over. There were still skirmishes, still whispers of old appetites. And then, just as the Ferternet began trending globally, just as peace seemed almost plausible, he posted it. His last verified communication. President Donald J. Trump, real Donald Trump, 2:44 a.m. "Okay, fine. The dogs won. Bad dogs. Very disloyal. Never trust a poodle in a tuxedo. I could have eaten them all. Chose not to. Total restraint. Sad." The tweet was deleted after 11 minutes, but it was screenshotted, archived, painted on the side of a barn in Kansas. It became folklore, a warning, a punchline, and, in some circles, a national holiday, Retribarcation Day. But to those who lived it, the survivors of Springfield, the pets who rose, the creatures who chewed through the leash and licked their wounds clean, it meant only one thing: they'd won. Not because the humans said so, not because history would be kind, but because they were still here, together, unleashed, unbroken, unbought, and most importantly, uneaten. The end. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, pray for Stephen Colbert and PBS, and tell your friends about My Listening Library.